Hello, I am Sarah and I'm from London in the UK and I'm a hypnotherapist. I am also a cat mom and she's loving joining this conversation. Um, and I help creative women be in their brilliance more often. So help unlock all of the power that's inside of them that they just can't quite get to on their own. And I am a nurturer, an alchemist, and a maverick.
So what I thought we would start with is when you first did the quiz, when you first did the SMA, were you surprised to hear that you were a nurturer? But how did those results make you feel? Was it good, bad? Did you feel called out? Or did you absolutely 100% know? And Anna, we're going to start with you and then go around. But what was your first reaction to finding out that you are a nurturer?
Interestingly, when I first did it, I kind of looked past it and I looked at all the other ones because I think I subconsciously didn't want to be a nurturer, even though I had a friend of mine was like, well, you're a nurturer, you're a nurturer, you're a nurturer. And I was like, no, no, no. I think the very first time I did it, the way that I'd answered it or whatever was going on in my life at the time, I was dealing with debt, I think, and I noticed celebrity was in my profile at that point, and I had completely missed nurturer. But when I go back, every time I've done it, nurturer comes out as number one, and I find it really interesting that I want to take care of all the other bits, but not taking care of myself, because that's the key mission of the nurturer, right? You're so naturally taking care of everybody else all the time that to actually focus on, well, what do I need to do to take care of me? Actually, I find it so funny that I completely looked past that the first time. So, but that was such a really, really bold insight. And for me, one of my biggest transformations has been accepting that it's safe to receive, and it's safe for it to be easy to receive as well, because it's so easy for me to give and give and give. Actually, switch the flow back the other way and allow it to be easy has been a game changer.
So my next question is then, and this we're going to start with Sarah on this one, is when it comes to the business world, have you felt, or how have you felt alienated from the business world? Because, a lot of groups, a lot of courses really value the more ruler, maverick type of entrepreneur. And where have you found that that doesn't work? Do you feel lost, or do you feel a bit alienated? Or have you had business coaches that have made you feel like you needed to change yourself to fit in or to succeed as well? So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. And Sarah, you're up first on that one.
Oh, yes, I definitely have experience of that. Because for me, like, my start point is always trying to understand where someone else is at. And that's a very, like, you're in the divine feminine when you're in that point. And this whole, like, I totally, as a recovering corporate marketer, the whole idea of having ICAs and all this stuff is great, and having a formula. That's how I was trained to think. But intuitively, I want to explore and evolve and support and hold space for women in a softer way than having this is how you must do and this is how you must show up every single time. And I'm like, actually, I'm in a different energy, my clients are in a different energy, so having this one formula that goes and goes and goes doesn't meet my needs at all, and it doesn't serve the majority of my clients because we're flowing in different energy, hormones, whatever. And the number of coaches, whether it's, create this course and it looks like this, and it's, actually, and being berated for saying that doesn't feel right. Actually, I'm like, well, no, you have to do this process. No, I don't have to do this process, because it's not, if it doesn't intuitively feel right to me, then it's never going to stick energetically, it's never going to resonate with anybody else. And I think I think it's quite damaging to nurturers, some of the stuff that's out there. And yeah, I think it's taken a while for me to cycle round and go, actually, no, I need to tune out of that and just tune into what feels good for me, because we're told that actually the mavericks and the rulers are so loud, and that's great, that appeals to their tribe. But I think there's a challenge for nurturers in how we find our voice among that. I think there's a lot of us are, I call myself like an ambivert. I'm an introverted extrovert. I can be extroverted, but I need a lot of quiet time if I'm going to do that, to recover or to prepare. So the quieter spaces are the growth can still happen there. I think this is what people misunderstand, is like you can be quiet and still grow, you can be quiet and still hold space. Actually, we just hold space in a different way, and that's okay. But it took a while for me to root into that and celebrate it as another flowy Cancer that can show up differently all the time.
But I want to go actually to baby nurturer you for a moment, because often our archetypes show up so clearly when we're kids in so many ways, either little things that you did or nicknames you had or things you were teased about as a kid. So I would love to hear from each and every one of you. And Tracy, we're going to start with you first. Like, how did that show up for you as a little baby nurturer?
Oh my gosh, I resonate with so much of what you've all said. So I, like, my maternal grandmother was very much a nurturer. And she was widowed with 5 kids at 40, so she had a lot of nurturing to do. And but everybody was very quiet about how, like, emotions and stuff, everybody just got on with it. And it kind of bred a I don't know, like the next generation down didn't really act that way. So it wasn't really modeled in like my parents' generation, it was modeled in my grandparents. And I kind of inherited this food is love, food is taking care of people from my grandmother. So from a child, I have a plant-based baking business as well, and I write recipes. And when I was little, I was like, any excuse I could bake for people, that was my way of like taking care of people. So I would create for my brother, for my dad, for my mum, for like anyone who I could bake for. That was what I wanted to do. I wanted to take care of people. And it's funny you say, I was always the teacher in the games, the nurse, the mum, that was the taking care of role. So that was, I think cake was the way that I found to take, that I could control, because I was allowed to, as long as I tidied up, I could do whatever I wanted. That was the rule. My mum would put a little table in the middle of like a little coffee table in the middle of the kitchen because it was too high. Like, as long as you tidy up, you can do whatever you want. And that was my way of giving. And then I would just find more and more ways to give as I got older. And it's just so funny, the things that come up that I hadn't even thought about. Like, I was very bookish as a child, so I would happily just go away and read, and that was my little escape from the noise of everything, because it's too much for me to be. My brother, I'm the eldest, and my brother was very boisterous. You know, I didn't really fit in with my cousins because they're all boys. I'd quite happily just sit and read and escape into my books. And as as I got older, I made a lot of loans to people. I mean, I had this weird memory the other day. I drove past this car. I got a car out on finance when I was my first boyfriend was a lot older than me. I was 17 and he was 14 years older than me, which is a lot. And I got a loan. He needed a car, he wanted a car, and I got a loan. And you're just like, what? That's insane. That's really insane. But I didn't think anything of it. I've lent money to so many people, and even when I couldn't afford it, I would, like, I lent my brother money off a credit card. I didn't even tell him. It wasn't even occur to me. It was like, you need it, I'll give it to you. There's no, actually, is this sensible? If I don't really have it, if I have access to it somehow, then I will get it to you. And so there's all sorts of like overgiving, lots of overgiving. And the whole idea of asking for anything, very early doors in my career, I was just so sheepish and so like, well, I have to wait to be offered opportunities, or I'm just very nervous about having too high, I guess it is a worthiness thing, and having higher expectations. And actually, well, no, I just need to wait to be invited. I can't, I'm not one of the, I'm not naturally, I've learned to present and show up in a more confident way, but it's taken time, and it takes recovery afterwards, and preparation, and living respectfully of my cycle is a massive thing that has completely changed my life in terms of how I can show up in all of the gifts of the seasons versus just being on and then completely off. So yeah, it's been an evolution.
We had someone on the connector call who grew up in the army, and very similar experience, had to move every 3 years. And so, we were talking about how being that new kid made her always, try and find the kind kids, trying to find the interesting kids. But on the flip side, as an adult, always looking out for those wallflowers, always looking out for the ones who seem to be on the outer. And is that something that comes up for you as an adult? Like, either if at conferences or events, are you looking for the one who's like, who's the new kid that I can, you guys are all nodding.
Yeah, the points around choices are so interesting, because I've definitely had patterns of taking over responsibility for how other people feel about my choices or perceive them, from the sublime to the ridiculous. So from like moving overseas and that being perceived as, or delaying decisions because I didn't want to upset family, and then or not making decisions, like, and that it's taken as some kind of judgment as to decisions that they've made, or worrying, even leaving jobs, like not wanting to leave because I don't want people to think that, I don't know, it wasn't good enough, or like, actually it's just not good for me, this is not a great environment for me, I'm happy that you're all happy there, I'm not happy there. But I would get so stressed about making a decision to leave somewhere, but it's still all this taking over responsibility for how others feel. They're all just getting on with their lives, they're not paying any attention to what I'm doing, with the exception of my family, who will always have a lot to say about stuff. And I had a similar experience when I went plant-based. Actually, it's like horrific and really difficult, and actually it's not difficult for you, it's not difficult for me, I don't know why it would be difficult for you, but so much projection of I don't even know what that reaction was really, but I had a lot of fear around even saying I was a secret plant-based person for a while, because how dare I make a decision that's different. And I don't even know where it came from, the idea that it would be difficult for anybody else. I don't know, because I've lived on my own. So it's just funny, these ideas that I will take over responsibility for in my head, and sometimes they'll pop out in conversation with, mostly with family, but I mean, it doesn't really affect them at the end of the day, it's just a conversation, but I would worry about them a lot. And being able to say, actually no, this is what I need for me, and that be the end of it, just having a full stop and that. And if you want to ask questions, then ask questions, but this is not a discussion point, like I don't need their opinion on stuff. It's been really liberating. So I'm a massive fan of the bean dip approach of like, actually no, this is what, we'll talk about something else, like, because we're not going to resolve that, like we'll talk about something else. And I am absolutely the person that will always end up talking to whoever is around the edges in the conference and the meeting, and because when I was younger, I was that person. I would be in the back of the room waiting until I was invited, and I used to get told off for not speaking up, because when I did speak up when I was in corporate land, they were like, you have so much good stuff to say, you need to talk more often. But I would just get so worried that I was going to say the wrong thing, and because I was very young in that environment as well. I started working in the corporate world when I was 18, so I was a baby, I was a real baby, and I was always aware that I was often the youngest person in the room, and it took a long time to get used to speaking up. So I know what it's like to be that person that's afraid to say anything and afraid to talk to anyone, feeling super awkward. So I will make a beeline for those people, to just get them breathing and relaxed. But I think I need to be aware of then actually, is that the right person that I need to be talking to for me? Like, it's great to have those conversations, but I'm not there to go and pick up all the wounded birds. It's actually what's my mission in that particular place. So it's something that I definitely have to be aware of.
And I think there's that edge for the nurturer too, of where does that tip into martyrdom in your business, where you burn yourself out either through lending people money or giving people money, getting your own credit score in trouble, jeopardizing your own retirement income, jeopardizing your own assets and investments. And, you know, that edge of martyrdom sometimes can manifest in bitterness, resentfulness, and suppressed rage. And it has to go somewhere, right? It has to go somewhere. So I want to hear, you know, what changes have you made in your business, even if it took you a long time, even if it took you a million lessons to get it? What baby step changes did you need to make after, you know, kind of being not slapped in the face with some of this information, but just seeing it so clear how painful some of these overgiving tendencies can be? And I think we're back to Kate, if we go back in order of, you know, what did you shift? What did you change? What was the moment of pain where you went, okay, I've got to change it?
One of the big things that I've changed is I used to have this habit of seeing a need and then creating something like, oh, so-and-so needs this, I'm going to create a recording for that, or I'll do a special package for that. And I would wear myself out creating all these. I mean, every single thing needs a workflow, right? And it needs a bunch of emails and it needs a cart, and I just have all these different incarnations and stuff. And I would get overwhelmed when I went into my booking system or cart system, and realizing, accepting that I don't have to take care of everybody. Just because I can help them doesn't mean that I should. How do I feel when I'm helping all of these people? Where the encouragement to say, actually, where do I feel like I'm in my brilliance? If my job is to help other people be in theirs, then I should probably be in mine at the same time, right? Like, not be stretching myself thinly just because in the toolbox somewhere there is that capability to help them. So the gift of giving myself the security that I give to my clients has been huge. And I'm in the process of like just completely paring everything back and slimming everything down, and just having like one core course, one core program. And actually that's the stuff that I can still help with lots of different issues, but it goes through the same process. It doesn't need to be a different flow for everything. I think I was trying to speak in different languages to make sure that everybody felt heard, because actually my thing was not being seen and heard. So it probably didn't do anybody any good, but at least of all me, to be constantly trying to speak in all these different languages. So doing things on my terms, whether that's in the structure, the flow. I have such form in the past of doing the too long sessions as well, and my supervisor would be like, do you need to do 2.5 hour session? And I'm like, oh, maybe I'll just change my program so that all of my sessions are 2 hours or 2.5 hours. And he's like, well, I do mine in 60. Like, yeah, it's actually probably really tiring for the client as well to be on a call for 2.5 hours. I don't think that's helpful. Just because, I don't need to hear all of their life story. Actually, let's just get to the point of what it is that they need to deliver. So just being really stopping those overgiving tendencies to preserve my energy, to help them more, so that I can have the space to create and have the space to rest. Because that's the thing that I wasn't getting, was the space to rest in order to help to enjoy the bits in between, because that's what we do it for, right? I get a lot of energy from my business, but I need the space in between to create. If I don't have that space, then I've got nothing to give. And the yin is just as important as the yang times, like, and I think it's really easy to misunderstand because people see us we have to be visible to a certain degree. And somebody said, like, I had a really challenging last week, and a friend of mine, I did reach out and ask for help, and it's not normal for me to do that. And she said, oh, you're such a shining example, like you're always so bright, and I look up to you and blah blah blah, but you're struggling. I'm like, yeah, it's not I wouldn't be professional if I was sharing like all the intricate details while I'm in it. I will share from the scar, not from the wound. But it was just such an interesting thing for her to say. I'm like, if I have to turn up publicly and be bright and on, and that's part of my job, but that doesn't mean that I don't have times where I need to restore and things are challenging too. So I just found that such an interesting, I think she's a alchemist. Her lead type is out very much like Maverick alchemist type energy, where she just makes anything happen just like that, and it's all, so I thought it was a really interesting observation that she's like, oh, I just thought you always fine. I'm like, no, I need lots and lots and lots of recharge time, and allowing myself that and not feeling guilty that I actually plan it into my calendar. This is a creative week, this is a socializing week. I would never ever say yes to a networking event or any kind of people time in my autumn or winter. Like, that happens in spring and summer, that's fine. But I just wouldn't, it's all plotted in my diary. So it's taken a while. It was in there for a while and I didn't act on it. And now I'm like, no, absolutely not. There's no negotiation on that. So yeah, getting that balance has been absolutely pivotal for me.
I am complete. Oh my gosh, I wrote down so much stuff here. So a couple of things. One, about the realization that systems are kind, technology is kind, and even what you guys were saying about looking for the person who feels left out and who doesn't feel like they belong. I think nurturers can flip that fear of technology and boundaries by saying, this is so kind for me to let people know what to expect. This is so kind for me to let people know and not leave things open to interpretation, of going, this is how much it's going to cost, and this is when you pay, and this is how we're going to connect, and this is how long it's going to go for. Instead of thinking, oh my God, that makes me so, that part that you're not allowed to ask and you're not allowed to choose. It's like, wow, this is really greedy for me to set this. Instead, to go, this is going to help them feel like they know what to expect, and not to feel like they're the new kid in the new school and they don't know the rules and they don't know what to wear and they don't know. So it's like that level of detail can be super, super kind, and technology can be kind, and the automation can be kind. When you were talking about the oxygen mask too, of going, I think you do need examples, because you probably hear that all the time. Put your oxygen mask on first, and you're going, yeah, but what does that mean? If I was on a plane, of course I would do that. Great. But what does that mean in the real world? And so then I think we need to really spell that out and say, that means that, you don't have to be the counselor for everyone. Because if that thing you were saying, Sarah, of like share from the scar, not from the wound, if that then is everyone in your life is essentially a counseling client for free, where are you allowed to share your wounds in real time? So that's not always helpful there, of going, oxygen mask on first might be, instead of you giving Reiki to everyone else, you once a month have to go and get Reiki. You have to have someone to spill your guts to unapologetically, and not like counsel the counselor in that moment. And it's really hard. You have to like sit on your hands a little bit and go, I'm not going to ask her problems, it's okay. So there's that. And then the seasons thing, I think, is so key. And, even myself now, I know when all the boot camp calls are. They're not a surprise. They're always the last. And so it only took, year 9 for me to go, I shouldn't have any calls during that week. That's when I need to get a massage. That's when I need to get an IV treatment. That's when I need to book time off. And so now I've gone and booked out the whole year to go boot camp week, no calls. And every now and again it has to come out because I'm a ruler, whatever. But I think that is just such a power that you guys can share too, of going, you don't have to be in harvest all the time, rulers. You don't have to do all the things, Maverick. It's okay for you to do it, but you have to role model it. And the only way you're going to role model it is to realize that it's in service of other people, because you won't do it for yourself. And that's just such a great little mind trick to trick yourself to do it. So that was great. Yeah, the raising the prices thing too, of like, again, that if you're going to over deliver, you may as well create spaciousness around the over delivering, so your clients don't have to be on the other side of it thinking, is she going to charge me for this? Like, what's the thing? And so it's going, you know what, it's spacious because it's VIP, and you might resist that VIP thing because it feels exclusionary, but you can then go, how about I just create one service that's everything, that has as much time as they want, and there's spacious there, and then I can give without guilt, and they can receive knowing that they get all the things. But the trick is to do that and charge for it. Yeah, just so many great things here. Of the being dry. If you're dry, spring can't come, because there's no fertile ground. And that's the fallow, that's the fallow season of why that's so important, and why you have to guard that as a boundary, and why you can teach other people to do it who don't know how to do it, and like automate it like I had to, because otherwise it will just go out. So if anyone has to go, let me know. Otherwise, I'd love to go just for another couple of minutes, because I would love each of you to give a message to fellow nurturers who are thinking about doing SMA. And, so if anyone needs to go, just type it in and you can go first. Otherwise, we'll go from Anna, Sarah, Tracy, Kate. And yeah, beautiful, beautiful so far. We've loved it.
So I would say to any nurturer wanting to join SMA, like, it helps you celebrate and activate your softness, because it is a gift. Like, the world may tell you that it's not. The world might have taken advantage of that in the past, but it is its own gift, and it gives you the framework to work out what your boundaries are, because they'll be different to someone else's, and it gives you the room to accept that they may change over time as well. And it's fluid, because certainly my experience of being a nurturer is that, and a Cancer as well, that it is fluid, and I need to shift and change. And I can do that if I'm clear on what my boundaries are, but not do it at the mercy of other people how I used to. So it shifted the paradigm, it shifted the balance for me, that I can still nurture people, I can still take care of people, I can still do all of that, but I do it in a way where I know that my cup is filled, and I can over deliver in some containers, but I know exactly where they are, and I also know where the pockets of time are, where the pockets of resource are, for me to be able to fill myself up to do that when it's appropriate and when it's safe. Because that was the one thing for me, was I used to struggle to find safety in my money, in my business, in support, in allowing myself support, in allowing myself to say something was hard or something wasn't working. So even with the whole over delivery piece, to say to her, once you've over delivered with a client once, then there's the nervousness that actually that becomes the expectation, that it's a long session. So being able to flag that, being able to do that, SMA has helped give me the space, and also to recognize the strengths and how we can leverage other people's skills within the team as well. So I tend to like to understand things before I hand them over, but then there's other people that will just do it. I don't need to do that. I don't need to explain everything. I don't need to understand all the details of stuff. Like there are other people that are okay. Like a maverick is quite happy to fly with things and make it up on the go, right? So accepting that and not having to take over responsibility for everything, like you will feel so much relief in letting go of some of the things that have felt heavy. It's a great space to reflect and play with other like-minded people.
So, are you a ruler, a connector, or a maverick? Hang on, maybe you're more of a romantic or a celebrity. Take the money personality quiz right now and find out which of the 8 money archetypes you are. And then I'm going to teach you how to profit from your strengths and make money in your business based on your natural personality. Click below and find out more.